Joining me right now is the Senate Judiciary Committee member, Army veteran, and author of Only the Strong, Reversing the Left's Pull to Sabotage American Power. Tom Cotton is here. Senator, it is great to see you. I want to wish you a happy Veterans Weekend, and I want to thank you for your incredible service to our great country. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you, Maria. That's very kind of you. And I also want to acknowledge and express my gratitude to all the great veterans out there.
Thank you. What's your take on what we just heard from Joe Biden? He wants to investigate Elon Musk. Does he have any basis for this?
I'm not aware of that basis, Maria. Of course, we should always be mindful about the risk of foreign influence in our country. I write about this some in Only the Strong, and what I call the China lobby, and how pervasive it is in Hollywood and big tech and college campuses and the media. I think the investors in Twitter come from friendly nations in the Middle East, like Qatar and maybe Saudi Arabia. But the real irony here is that you have Joe Biden's family members, like Hunter Biden, his son, and Jim Biden, his brother, who have been deeply enmeshed with state-owned or supported enterprises in China, with Chinese communists potentially having access and influence all the way up to Joe Biden. And that's certainly something that needs to be investigated, and the new congressional majority will be investigating that in the new year.
The CCP has been able to infiltrate all sorts of places in America, and that has enabled them to steal intellectual property, try to get ahead of America on some very important technologies. I'm talking about universities, professors that are sending intellectual property made in America to China. I'm talking about embassies where Secretary Pompeo had to close them down because of surveillance programs underway. What can you tell us?
Yeah, the China lobby is pervasive, Maria. I mean, just the Hunter Biden, Jim Biden, Joe Biden story is just one example of that. Chinese communists using the lure of Chinese money to try to influence and gain access to American decision makers. I want to be clear, what we're concerned about is not Hunter Biden's personal troubles, whether it's drug use or adultery in the past. It's whether or not his business dealings with Chinese communists could have any influence on the president. But you see it in other ways across our country as well. Remember when the Houston Rockets general manager merely retweeted something in support of democracy protesters in Hong Kong. His fellow NBA owners and executives chided him. LeBron James came down on him like a ton of bricks because they want access to the Chinese market. Or consider Hollywood. When was the last time you saw a bad guy from China in a movie? You don't, because all those theaters want access to Chinese consumers.
This is something that all Americans need to understand better. My problem with all of this is the fact that now Joe Biden has to make serious decisions about protecting America against the Chinese Communist Party, which has been very adamant and vocal about wanting to overtake the United States as the #1 superpower. Now, Biden is holding his first in-person, face-to-face meeting with Chinese leader Xi Jinping on Monday. Are we supposed to believe that he's going to press Xi Jinping on the origins of COVID-19, where millions across the world have lost their lives because it was likely leaked from a lab in Wuhan, as you very early on educated us on the evidence around that? And so are we going to be surprised that this subject doesn't come up, or the subject of intellectual property theft? I mean, how is he going to be tough on Xi Jinping when he's taking in money from China?
Well, Maria, suffice it to say, I have my doubts about how tough a line Joe Biden is going to draw with Xi Jinping in the upcoming summit meeting. That's in part because Joe Biden, going back to his days in the Senate, has been soft on Chinese communism from the very beginning. You know, when he was vice president as well, Barack Obama deputized him to handle the relationship with Xi Jinping, and he literally toasted him throughout the administration, celebrating China's rise. Even in the 2020 campaign, President Biden said that China was not competition for us, when in reality, as you say, China views itself as our chief competitor, and they want to surpass us economically, financially and militarily. What we need to draw is a very strong line on China, make it clear that we're not going to tolerate their unfair trade practices or their technology theft, and be especially clear on the most urgent matter, which is we will support Taiwan if communist China goes for the jugular trying to invade and annex Taiwan to the mainland.
Well, Senator, thank you so much for your leadership on this subject. We so appreciate you, and your book could not be more important at this moment in time right now.